Quail reads k, k, k. Q reads k, k, k.
I'll never quit, said Quentin the Quail. Quick, quiet, Quentin sits on a rail.
Quentin Quail. Quentin Quail was so kind-hearted. He could not see someone in trouble without quickly trying to help. He could not hear someone crying without feeling quite sad. Quentin Quail is so helpful, everyone said. Mothers told their children, "Watch Quentin Quail. See how kind he is. Quentin Quail just won't quit." Everyone loved Quentin Quail. When anyone was in trouble, it was on Quentin Quail they called. Quentin Quail wouldn't quit until he had found a way to help. Quentin Quail never said, "I won't help," or "I don't know how." He would figure out some way to help. Everyone could count on Quentin Quail not to quit. One day, someone said, "Quentin Quail, we want to do something for you." "Yes," someone else said. "We never get to help you. Let us do something for you." Quentin Quail laughed quietly. "Well, thanks, but I don't know of anything I need. I'm quite all right." Everyone watched and waited, but they never could find a chance to do something for Quentin Quail. One day, there was something they could all do for Quentin Quail, and they will always remember that day. Here is what happened. Quentin Quail was walking along the lane one day looking for some nice juicy seeds to eat. He saw a tree that had fallen. Just under the fallen tree were some of the best looking yellow seeds Quentin Quail had ever seen. Oh, they looked juicy and nice. Quentin Quail pushed his head through the branches and tasted one. They tasted as good as they looked. How nice that Quentin Quail had found such good food! Quentin Quail kept eating and eating and eating, and soon he had eaten most of the beautiful yellow seeds. Quentin Quail decided to leave, but when he started to pull his head out, it was stuck fast. Quentin Quail had eaten seeds until his neck was too fat to come out between the branches. Quentin Quail was stuck fast. Quentin Quail was in trouble. Quentin Quail needed help, but there was no one in sight. Quentin Quail fluttered his wings, but it didn't help. Quentin Quail twitched his tail, but his neck would not budge. Quentin Quail scratched with his feet, but his head stayed right where it was, caught in the branches of the fallen tree. Maybe you would have given up if you had been in that situation. But remember that Quentin Quail wouldn't quit. So you might have guessed that he would think of something to do. "Help! Help!" cried Quentin Quail, but no one heard him. "Help! I need your help!" said Quentin Quail, but no one heard him. Then Quentin Quail had a thought. Something unusual would get attention. Quentin Quail would quack like a duck. That would be such a strange sound. Someone would surely come quickly to help him. After all, can you imagine a quail quacking? So Quentin Quail quacked at the top of his quail voice. Quack, 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 quack. Down in the grass, a little ant heard Quentin Quail. Quack, quack! What sort of a queer quack, quack was that? Something must be wrong. So he quickly ran for help. Away Ant ran until he found Ladybug. Come quickly and hear the queer quack quack sound coming from under the fallen tree. Together they ran halfway back to where Quentin Quail was quack quack quacking. Oh, I never have heard a queer quack quack quite like that before. Let's go tell someone bigger. Away they ran until they found Butterfly. Come quickly and hear the queer quack quack coming from under the fallen tree. Together they ran and flitted halfway back to where Quentin Quail was quack quack quacking. Oh, I never have heard a queer quack quack quite like that before. Let's go tell someone bigger. Away they ran until they found Hummingbird. Come quickly and hear the queer quack quack coming from under the fallen tree. Together they ran, flitted, and flapped halfway back to where Quentin Quail was quack quack quacking. Oh, I never have heard a queer quack quack quite like that before. Let's go tell someone bigger. Away they ran, flitted, and flapped until they found Blue Jay. Come quickly and hear the queer quack quack coming from under the fallen tree. Together they ran, flitted, flapped, and flew halfway back to where Quentin Quail was quack quack quacking. Blue Jay went closer to the strangest quivering quack quack he had ever heard. He looked under the fallen tree and found Quentin Quail hardly able to quack one more quack quack. Come quickly! Quentin Quail needs our help! Quentin Quail could hardly breathe, but he hadn't quit. Quickly they pulled, tagged, and hauled. Soon, Quentin Quail lay limp on the grass, gasping for breath. My, but I'm glad you didn't quit quacking, Quentin Quail, said Ant. I'm glad you didn't quit quacking, Quentin Quail, said Ladybug. I'm glad you didn't quit quacking, Quentin Quail, said Butterfly. I am glad you didn't quit quacking, Quentin Quail, said Hummingbird. I'm glad you didn't quit quacking, Quentin Quail, said Blue Jay. I'm glad too, said Quentin Quail. I'm glad I didn't quit. Bible story. Samuel was a prophet of God. God told Samuel that he had chosen a new king to replace Saul. King Saul had disobeyed God and God would no longer bless him. God told Samuel to go to a man named Jesse and offer a sacrifice. Jesse had several sons, and God wanted Samuel to anoint one of the sons to be the next king. Samuel was frightened that Saul would find out about this. Samuel feared Saul would be angry over someone else being chosen king, even if the new king was God's choice. Even though Samuel was afraid of Saul, he still obeyed God and went to Jesse's house. When Samuel met Jesse's sons, he was eager to see which would be the new king. First came Eliab, a fine-looking young man. Surely this is the Lord's anointed, Samuel thought. The Lord told Samuel, No, this is not the one. Man looked at the outward appearance, but God looked on the heart. Jesse's next son, Abinadab, came, but God said, No, not this one. 7 of Jesse's sons passed before Samuel, but not one of them was the one God had chosen. Samuel said to Jesse, "No, the Lord has not chosen any of these. Haven't you any other children?" "Well, my youngest boy David isn't here. He is keeping the sheep," Jesse told Samuel. Samuel said, "Send and fetch him." He would not begin the service of sacrifice until David had arrived. In came young David. God spoke to Samuel, "This is the one. Anoint this one as king." Samuel must have thought in wonder, "But he is young." Still, Samuel obeyed God. He anointed young David as king. From that day forth, the Spirit of the Lord was with David. Now that David had been anointed to be king, do you think he went to the palace the next day and began ruling the country? No, Saul was still king. David had to wait until God set the exact time for David to be king. Saul was far from the Lord and unhappy and angry. Someone at the court said to him, "King, you need to find someone who plays a harp well. Then, when you are feeling angry, you can have beautiful music to make you feel better." King Saul thought that was a good idea. Someone said, "I know whom we should get. I've seen David, a son of Jesse. He is a good harp player, but he's also wise and a brave fighter. Best of all, the Lord is with him." King Saul sent a messenger to Jesse. "Send me your son David, who is keeping the sheep." When David came, he played the harp. The music soothed Saul in his bad moods. Sometimes David even carried the king's armor. We do not know exactly how long David stayed with Saul at this time. We do know that when David's 3 older brothers were in the army, David was home again caring for the sheep. You know the story of how David went to see his brothers and fought the giant Goliath. After this, King Saul wanted David to stay with him again. Saul's son, Jonathan, became a good friend to David. David became the king's assistant. Wherever Saul went, David went. David always obeyed and behaved wisely. All the soldiers and all the people came to know and love David. When the people sang songs bragging on David, King Saul became jealous. Did he know that God wanted David to be king someday? King Saul watched David carefully to see if he did anything wrong. When the king was in a bad mood, he still wanted David to play the harp for him. On 2 occasions, King Saul became so angry at David as David played the harp that King Saul threw his spear, trying to kill David. David dodged, and the spear missed him. David still behaved himself wisely in all his ways because the Lord was with him. This made Saul even more afraid. Saul knew David would make a good king because David was wise and all the people loved David. Saul sent David out with the army again, hoping David would be killed in a battle. Again, Saul tried to kill David. He sent messengers to take David. But David's wife let David down through a window so that he could escape. David's wife put a pillow covered with a cloth in David's bed to fool the messengers. This saved David's life. When David escaped, he went to stay with Samuel. King Saul still wanted to be king. Saul followed David, hoping to kill him. David must have wondered why all this was happening. Why had God chosen him to be king and then allowed all this to happen? Did God really care about him? Yes, God cared about David. And when it was the right time, David was made king. God wanted David to be faithful and patient until the right time came.